What's happening, Stoveminders? Final week of November here in 2020, and I have just three free agent signings of note to report in this opening month of this here Major League Baseball offseason. And all three of these signings are quite similar because, like gold in a time of economic uncertainty, general managers around the league are playing it safe and going after the most reliable commodity in baseball, starting pitchers. Two of these guys are left-handers, even more rare and valuable, and all three are one-year deals, which makes sense from the front office perspective, given the CBA set to expire after 2021. Are we going to have baseball in 2022? Who knows? And how much money are we going to have that following winter with the financial mystery of next season? How long is it going to be? Are there going to be fans in the stands? What's up? Well, let's get to them. First, a re-signing by the Toronto Blue Jays, a club that has publicly pronounced their aggressiveness on the market. GM Ross Atkins gave starter Hyunjin Ryu a Christmas present in 2019, 4 years, $80 million, and Ryu rewarded him with a Cy Young nominated season as the Jays snagged an expanded playoff spot. They've also been connected to a number of other big names, Justin Turner, Ha-Seong Kim. They've checked in on Lindor. I get a lot of Blue Jays news being in Canada, but let's get to the matter at hand. Rejoining Ryu in the rotation will be Robbie Ray. Yes, on a 1 year, $8 million deal. $8 million. Ray was acquired at this past August trade deadline. Another show of Atkins and Toronto's win soon mentality, making a mid-season trade during COVID. Well, Robbie Ray was not good in Ontario, but actually improved considering his terrible start in Arizona in 2020. One of many players to struggle this past year. Call it a mulligan, maybe, but there's a reason the Diamondbacks didn't or couldn't trade Ray despite years in the rumor mill. He gives up a fair share of walks and homers, but if the Jays can get the 4-grade starter that Ray has been on average, I think they'll be happy. They need to keep that rotation bolstered. Taijuan Walker is also a free agent, though he has expressed a desire to return to the Blue Jays. He said he likes what they're doing there, what's cooking. I would too. That's an exciting young team, and Robbie Ray will be with them for at least another year. And also, granted, beyond Ryu and Nate Pearson, their top pitching prospects, all those other guys were shit. Like, Ray wasn't good, Tanner Roark wasn't good. They had one of the Andersons, I think Brett Anderson, maybe Chase Anderson. One of those guys was also shit, so you get what you can get. Well, breeze through that one, but that's to set up these other two signings, which both came from the Atlanta Braves. Now, former Blue Jays GM Alex Anthopoulos, who's been at the head of the helm in Atlanta, was pretty aggressive last winter as well. He threw around a bunch of signings in November 2019, I remember. Got a bunch of relief pitchers especially in that month, and he's been added with starting pitchers in 2020. First off, Drew Smyly. With the year it's been, you got to find reasons to smile, and Drew Smyly is one of them. In 2020, he completed his Tommy John comeback with the San Francisco Giants, throwing 26 innings, mostly as a starter, to the tune of a 3.42 ERA, and get this, a 2.01 FIP. Well above career average, where he's around a 4 pitcher in both those departments. He was in the 97th percentile in K rate in 2020 with a 14.4 strikeouts per 9-inning average, which is crazy. But if you want to dial back the clock a little bit, remember Smyly missed the entire 2017 and 2018 seasons because of Tommy John. So it's nice to see him land a solid deal, a $7 million gross raise from what he was making in San Francisco. For a mid-end starter, I think that's a fair deal. He's going to a good team in Atlanta, lots of young talent, and a need for experienced pitching in the rotation. That Braves pitching staff, I mean, you got Max Fried, you got Mike Soroka, although he's recovering from an Achilles tear. You got Ian Anderson, who showed up in 2020 and said, "Hey, my name is Ian Anderson. Let me pitch well." A lot to be excited about, but again, young. And when it comes time for October, it's better to have someone, some grizzly old vet who knows what the fuck he's doing. It's exactly why the Braves went out and signed Cole Hamels last winter, although that didn't really turn out well. And that's the reason why I heard the Braves a bunch connected to Adam Wainwright earlier this month. Wainwright is from Georgia, and he was considering retiring, but with the Braves knocking, and then apparently his sons were like, "Hey, Papa, keep pitching." He's like, "All right." But why settle for Wainwright when you can get Charlie Morton? 1 year, $15 million coming back to Atlanta. Morton was drafted by the Braves in 2002, in the third round of that draft, and made his debut with Atlanta in 2008 after years in the minors. However, he was traded to the Pirates the following winter, and after years in the wilderness as an irrelevant pitcher, he broke out big with the Astros in 2007, and since then he has been very good. 2 All-Stars, World Series champion, Cy Young nominee, 4 seasons in which he has compiled a 47-18 record in 97 starts, a 3.34 ERA, 3.27 FIP in about 546 innings, a strikeout rate above 10 per 9, a fair walk rate of 3 per 9, and less than a home run per 9 innings. You gotta love it. That's just regular season, too. In the postseason, and particularly in elimination games, Charlie Morton is 4-0 with an ERA under 1. This is exactly the kind of guy you want on a team that not only just lacks veteran pitchers, starting pitchers, would need a guy like this. I mean, the Braves went to Game 7 of the NLCS this past playoffs against the Dodgers. And would they have fared better with Morton at the helm? I think they would have. And Charlie Morton, like Adam Wainwright, was considering retiring, but he said he wouldn't if he could snag a deal with a team that's close to his family home in Florida, which is a narrow list of 3 teams that he could have signed with. And I'd say he signed with the best ones, with the Braves. All due respect to the Rays, they won the AL pennant. They showed us they're serious. They're serious on the field. They're not serious off the field. I don't like how this team is managed. I understand the financial limitations of being in Tampa Bay and, having a stadium in a terrible location and not getting the money from that. But they DFA'd Renfroe. They declined Morton's option, and now he's going to Atlanta. What was the other thing? Oh, yeah, they're trying to trade Blake Snell. It's not a good situation on the Gulf Coast of Central Florida. But anyway, yeah, Morton to the Braves. A right-hander to complement Smyly, an incoming left-hander. So kind of fills out that rotation. Look at that, just completed the shopping list. I gotta love Alex Anthopoulos. Again, he did the same last year. He's like, we need some relievers. Sound like 3 relievers in November. But a big picture here, Braves' estimated payroll moves up to $113 million for next season, which is notable considering that they're interested in bringing back outfielder Marcell Ozuna. So watch for that to develop. So yeah, those are the only signings of note so far this hot stove. But there were qualifying offers set at $18.9 million, and 2 players accepted. And guess what? They're both pitchers as well. Starting off with the obvious, Kevin Gausman. Yes, Kevin Gausman is going to be paid just under $19 million next season, returning to San Francisco to play with the Giants. That's his reward for what was a quality 2020 campaign. Talking 59-plus innings, ERA and FIP between about 3 and 3.6, respectively. A good note to a roller coaster career for a former 4th overall draft pick from back in 2010. Gausman's been a bad here and there, good here and there. So despite a small sample, 2020 was one of his best seasons. And the Giants lagged in the pitching department big time. So bringing back Gausman, even as a gross overpay for a team that is, I guess, technically rebuilding. They're kind of trying to find themselves, I feel. But they have the money to spend. Why not? Why not? Speaking of money to spend, the New York Mets, yes, they have a new owner, Steve Cohen, talk of the town. This guy's fucking rich, and he wants to run the Mets like a big city New York ball club. He wants to spend money, and he started that off with extending a qualifying offer to right-hander Marcus Stroman, New York boy. He's staying in his home state, and why not? Why not? As I said, new owner. Things are looking up in Queens. Good team down there. At least on paper. A little memory jog for you, because you might be thinking, well, what does Stroman do in 2020? Was he hurt or something? No, he opted out before the season, so he didn't pitch at all. But he will rejoin Jacob deGrom and the boys, what could be a good pitching staff. Cohen bought the Mets for about $2.5 billion from the Wilpons, so it'll be interesting to see if they make any other moves. It's been a tumultuous last couple years for the Mets as the Wilpons were exploring selling the team. They also hired general manager Brodie Van Wagenen, former player agent, and he was like, all right, we're going to go aggressive. We're going to win now. We're going to pull this huge trade with the Seattle Mariners. We're going to send off our top prospect outfielder, Jared Kelenic, number 11 prospect in all baseball, according to MLB Pipeline pre-2020, and in return, the Mets received Edwin Diaz, who was a natural disaster in 2019, but actually did stage a comeback this past year. Might have missed it, but Edwin Diaz is back in form. And in that trade, the Mets also received Robinson Cano, the 38-year-old making over $20 million a season through 2023, who hit well this year, but got caught using stanozolol, a performance-enhancing drug. His second positive test, meaning Cano will be suspended for the entirety of the 2021 season and forfeit his $24 million salary. I mean, it's no Archer for Glasnow and Meadows, but that was a pretty bad trade in retrospect. I mean, who knows? Maybe Kelenic is not all that, although everything I've heard from Seattle seems to indicate he is all that. Nick Cannon. But yeah, Marcus Stroman going back to the Mets. Not a big, actually kind of a surprise, because I heard some murmurs that Stroman was considering rejecting the qualifying offer. But for a guy who didn't pitch at all in 2020, maybe his market value was not what it was supposed to be. Anyway, Cano caught juicing. And speaking of guys caught on the horse instead of the wagon, newly minted Chicago White Sox skipper Tony La Russa beached his boat, so to speak, driving under the influence. Happened back in February. Charges were pressed in late October, around the time the White Sox were looking for a manager to replace the cursed Rick Renteria. He was managing that up-and-coming Cubs team, and he got fired for Joe Maddon. He was managing that up-and-coming White Sox team. He was nominated for AL Manager of the Year, and he got fired for Tony La Russa. The White Sox had A.J. Hinch lined up, but they still decided to hire La Russa, and there was a little bit of a gaffe, where apparently they were like right on the edge of signing Hinch before they went with La Russa, and the drama only continued when it came out that La Russa was drunk driving. A lot of people had something to say, but I'll say this, okay? As a Cubs fan growing up, I had to deal with this guy's shit for years. I'm not happy that La Russa is going to the White Sox. I'm not looking forward to the Crosstown Cup in 2021. But this guy is arguably the greatest manager of all time. As a matter of fact, when La Russa was getting charged or ticketed or whatever with the officer who caught him drinking and driving, he pulled the old "Do you know who I am" card and touted his three World Series rings. It didn't work, but I will add to that resume 6 pennants and a total of 13 postseason appearances with the Cardinals and Athletics, and an extra postseason appearance with the White Sox. Let's dial it back a little bit. 33 years in management for La Russa, the first 8 of which were on the south side of Chicago, 1979 to 1986. And in 83, Russa took the White Sox to the ALCS, where they lost to the Orioles. And then he was fired in the middle of the 1986 campaign. Almost immediately, the Oakland Athletics hired him. And a few years later, 1989, the Earthquake Series, Oakland A's world champions. I get that Russa is 76 years old. I get he came up in a different era of baseball, but I simply do not buy the narrative that he's too old or too out of touch for the game today and for this young, exciting, energetic White Sox team. Since leaving St. Louis in 2011, and remember, Russa retired after winning another title just because he's that guy. He worked for Major League Baseball, and then in the front offices of both the Red Sox and the Diamondbacks. Okay, he hasn't been fishing for the past decade. He hasn't been doing puzzles. He's been in the game. He knows what's going on. And when he was asked after his hire about all this stuff, he gave a bunch of media-friendly answers, a bunch of affirmatives, like, yeah, I love the game today. Yeah, Tim Anderson, he can flip his bat and whatever. Yeah, that's cool. I guess we'll have to see that put into practice, whether or not he actually is going to be accommodating to some of these youngins and their attitude. But all will be to see. But hey, as I said, the resume speaks for itself. This guy's fucking good at managing. And as I said, while I'm not looking forward to the Crosstown Cup, I will enjoy it when old Tony shows the world that, yes, drunk drivers can be winners. As for A.J. Hinch, the bride left at the altar, so to speak, he's coming off his 1-year suspension for failing to suppress the Astros cheating system. And he's going to the AL Central anyway. The Detroit Tigers will be managed by Hinch going forward in their rebuild, and it's going to take a few more years. Tigers finished last in the division at 23-35 in 2020. Bad enough for the 3rd overall pick in the 2021 draft. Congratulations to the Tigers. Hinch succeeded in similar circumstances down in Houston, developed some prime talent when that team was rebuilding, ended up winning a World Series there with an asterisk. But whether or not he'll find the same result in Detroit shall be seen. I myself have voiced some leadership concerns about the fact that Hinch was against the whole trash can camera system, but he didn't stop it. So, yeah, it's the Detroit Tigers, the kind of team they're like, yeah, whatever. You guys have had enough history. Anyway, so the Marlins hired an Asian woman as their general manager. Oh my God, yeah, congratulations, Kim Eng. I hope you don't mind the attention because the MLB and the baseball media and the sports media in general ran up a check promoting the heck out of Eng's hiring. Understandable considering the political climate and the press that it brings to baseball. We're in an era of information overload. I get it, okay? I get it. She's from a certain demographic, but all the best to her, because the Marlins, they got a little something going on. They surprised us last year. They snuck into the expanded playoff. They jumped on the sleeping Cubs, hitting like dog shit in October again. Cubscast coming soon. En route to an NL Manager of the Year win for Don Mattingly, who took that team through a COVID outbreak, through their adjusted schedule, like 30 doubleheaders, and all these bums having to come up from the minors to play because all these other guys are in quarantine. Low payroll, young talent, Derek Jeter in the ownership box. Reason for optimism in Miami-Dade. And speaking of front office hires, over in Anaheim, a new general manager too. His name is Perry Minasian. Big up to Armenian representation. Coming over from Atlanta, where he was an assistant GM and baseball operations vice president. Minasian, in fact, brought several of his ex-Braves colleagues to the Angels, and he now has the monumental task of building a winner with Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon and Shohei Ohtani. That's an organization that has struggled for a while, despite having Trout. Matter of fact, the Angels have the 4th highest payroll in baseball, thanks to some very bad old contracts. So we'll see what strategy Minasian takes. It's not an easy hire, or not an easy gig, rather. And to finish off, the Red Sox. No surprises here as they rehired Alex Cora as their manager after a 1-year suspension. 2020 was kind of a write-off for the Red Sox. They didn't play well. They hired an interim manager and were like, pretty much without saying it, yeah, we're going to bring back Cora when his suspension is up. And there he is. He's back. He was pretty successful with the Sox, and he's going to have basically the same team. They've had time to recover from their injuries for some of those dudes, so we'll see how that goes. And the Boston managed to poach Will Venable from the Cubs, hired him as a bench coach. Yeah, a lot of talk about Will Venable and his future in management or perhaps in the front office. So sad to see him go. And I guess just kind of cool here. Boston will also bring in Jason Varitek into the clubhouse as a game planning coordinator. I don't even know what the fuck that is. But yeah, as I said, Cubs cast coming up, a lot to talk about because one last piece of news, the biggest news as far as front office, the living legend Theo Epstein has stepped down, resigned as president of baseball operations of the Cubs with 1 year remaining on his contract. What's next for him? What's next for the Cubs? Well, they've already named Jed Hoyer their new baseball ops prezi. 5-year contract given to him. He was their GM before, so very familiar with the organization. That was a very smooth succession, and you could have kind of seen it coming. So I guess I'm thankful for that, but the Cubs apparently need a new GM now. And what are they going to do? Because it's kind of a pickle. And there's been a lot of talk, a lot more than last winter, mind you, about the Cubs trading some of these guys. And I'm not just talking Chris Bryant. I've heard Javier Baez. I've heard about non-tendering Schwarby. I'm a little worried, and maybe you are too, but I want to remind ye Cubs fans. For 3 straight years, this team has entered the home stretch, late September, October, and just stopped hitting the baseball. Just stopped scoring runs. Same cast, same results. I'm sorry. Change is needed. Best of luck to you. I'll see you on the Cubs cast. I'll try to keep my composure. Have a good day. Stay healthy. Get your vitamin C. Get your vitamin D when you can. When it's sunny, I don't care how cold it is. You go out there with your shades and your toque on and you enjoy yourself. Stoveminders, out.